Welcome to the Explainer. Now, if you've been following along with the reading, you already know just how powerful a single, well-crafted prompt can be. But today, we're going to level up. We're talking about a foundational pattern for building really sophisticated AI systems. It's called prompt chaining. And trust me, it's a deceptively simple idea with some incredibly powerful results.
So, let's start with something I'm sure you've run into. You've got this complex multi-step task you need done. You write this beautiful, detailed prompt for a large language model, hit enter, and the result is, well, kind of disappointing. Maybe it gets one part right, but then it just completely ignores another part. Sound familiar?
A prompt like this is a perfect example. I mean, look at it. You're asking the AI to be a market analyst, a data scientist, and a marketing copywriter all in one go. That kind of cognitive overload, that's just a recipe for disaster. You're going to get unreliable, incomplete, or sometimes just plain wrong outputs.
To really solve this, we've got to understand why these big prompts fail. First off, you get what's called instruction neglect. The AI literally just overlooks parts of your request. Then there's contextual drift, where it starts off strong but kind of loses the plot halfway through. And maybe the worst part? Error propagation. A tiny mistake at the beginning snowballs into a huge one by the end. All this effort just increases the chances the model will just make stuff up.
So if trying to cram everything into one request is the problem, what's the solution? Well, it's actually pretty elegant. We divide and conquer. And this brings us right to one of the core patterns in modern AI development. And here it is, prompt chaining. You might also hear it called the pipeline pattern. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like an assembly line. Instead of asking one worker to build an entire car, you set up different stations. Each station has one very specific job. It does that job perfectly, and then it passes its work on to the next station down the line. And the difference this makes is just night and day. We're moving away from this one massive all-or-nothing request that's a nightmare to debug to a clean, logical, modular workflow. And the beauty of that is, if one step in our chain breaks, we know exactly where the problem is. This gives us so much more control and a huge boost in reliability.
Okay, enough theory. Let's make this real. We're going to go back to that messy market report task and see exactly how we can use chaining to turn it into a predictable, high-quality workflow. So instead of one giant prompt, we create 3 smaller ones. Step 1, just summarize the report. We can even give the AI a role, like, you are a senior market analyst. Simple. Once we get that summary, we take it and feed it into our second prompt, this time asking a trade analyst to pull out the key trends. Finally, we take those trends and hand them off to an expert documentation writer to draft the email. See? Each step is focused, simple, and builds on the output of the one before it.
And here's a pro tip that makes these chains super robust. Use structured data. Since the output of one prompt becomes the input for the next, you want to make sure they're speaking the same language. A great way to do this is to tell the model to format its output as JSON. This makes sure the data gets passed along cleanly and precisely, with no room for misinterpretation. Now, this isn't just some neat little trick. This pattern is the engine running behind some of the most advanced AI tools you see out there. Let's take a look at where this thing really shines.
You really start to see it everywhere once you know what to look for. Think about research assistants that can summarize a long document, pull out all the key names, and then go search a database with those names. Or systems that tackle a really complex question by first breaking it down into smaller questions it can research one by one. It's even used to pull structured data out of messy things like invoices and PDFs.
It's also absolutely fundamental for chatbots. How do they remember what you said 5 minutes ago? They pass the conversation history through a chain to maintain that context. It's huge in code generation, too. You can have one prompt create the pseudocode, another write the draft, and a third act as a code reviewer to find bugs. It even works for multimodal stuff, like analyzing an image, pulling text out of it, and then using that text to understand a data table.
So let's zoom out a little bit, because prompt chaining isn't just an isolated technique. It's really a building block for a much bigger idea, a whole discipline for creating truly aware AI systems.
And that discipline is called context engineering. The central idea here is a big one. The quality of an AI's response has less to do with the model itself and more to do with the richness of the information. The context you give it before it even generates a response. It's all about building a complete picture for the AI.
And that context is way more than just your last prompt. It's the system prompt that sets the AI's entire personality. It's documents pulled from a knowledge base. It's live data coming from tools and APIs, like your calendar. And it's even implicit stuff, like your past conversations with the AI. Prompt chaining is the mechanism we use to assemble all of these different pieces into one coherent package.
Okay, so as you start thinking about putting this pattern to work, let's just boil it all down to the absolute essential rules you need to have in your back pocket.
At the end of the day, it's really this simple. 1. Divide your problem into smaller pieces. 2. Connect the steps, so the output of one becomes the input for the next. Doing just that will make your systems way more reliable and so much easier to fix when things go wrong. You should be reaching for this pattern anytime you have a task with multiple stages, or whenever you need to integrate external tools.
You know, mastering prompt chaining is a really fundamental shift. It takes you from just talking at an AI to actually engineering an intelligent system. It's the difference between a cool demo and a robust, reliable tool that actually works. So, the real question is, what complex problem are you ready to break down first?